depositors of the PMC Cooperative Bank got some relief, a little bit of relief today when the RBI increased the withdrawal limit from 1,000 rupees in 6 months to 10,000 rupees. It's still a pittance considering that people cannot access their money beyond 10,000 rupees for a period of 6 months. The decision has followed an outcry of depositors wondering why they are being punished, possibly for the faults and mismanagement by those who run the cooperative bank. Now, one of the people who have filed a complaint in this case is former BJP MP Kirit Somaiya, who has demanded action against the management. He is joining me now for a quick chat. Mr. Somaiya, thank you for speaking with us here on the India Development Debate. And it's an excellent point that you've gone to the authorities and asked for action against those who are running PMC. But now there are clear reports that many of the directors of the PMC Cooperative Bank have links with the BJP. And the fact is that a lot of cooperative banks, and you know this in fact better than me, have links to politicians. Don't you think that when you are demanding action, you should demand action and investigation on these links as well?
Let me first clarify. There are two parts. One is relief rehabilitation and second one is investigation and action. So relief and rehabilitation, the limit has increased to 10,000. I'm very much sure, hopeful that within next few weeks it will slowly, steadily, it will go up to 1 lakh, which will be able to cover around 8 lakh depositors out of 9 lakh. So that means almost 90% will be relieved. Now let us go to the second part. The inquiry, investigation and action. Now regarding action, let me clarify. Whoever is involved, whoever, maybe if Kirit Somaiya also, then he should be punished. But let us insist a particular one business person, business house, a real estate developer, he is able to withdraw 40% of advances. It is certainly dangerous. There has to be a knowledge or modus operandi design, must have been designed by the builder Rakesh Wadhwan, the Diwan builder, HDIL, but must be some officials in the bank are party and involved.
No, in fact, Mr.
One is
Somaiya,
managing director.
Yeah, there is a report that the chairman of PMC, S. Variam, was on the board of directors of HDIL in 2015. And you're right, there must be an investigation. I'm asking you a bigger question, Mr. Somaiya. I'm asking you a bigger question, sir, because your party has been in governance in Maharashtra for the last 5 years. You're up for re-election. Cooperative banks and political linkages is a painful truth of this state and of the cooperative movement here. So today, when something like PMC happens, unfortunately, even though you have been at the forefront of filing this complaint, I must ask you, Mr. Somaiya, that why has this been allowed to happen? Shouldn't there have already been a cleanup of the cooperative banks in place?
May I say something, please? Yeah. So let me complete. That there had to be involvement of couple of important persons in this particular bank. One is managing director. There could be a person like chairman, foreman chairman, Variam Singh or whoever may be. What first we have to do? Investigate. And that's why I personally filed a complaint with the Economics Offence Wing. I have already filed a complaint with the RBI for investigation, for forensic audit. So here, whoever involved, there may be director, there may be branch manager, there may be officials. We can't say all are guilty. Prima facie, the managing director and the senior chairman or whoever. Let the investigation go on. The second part, what you have narrated about the linkage, political linkage or cooperative banks and abuse of cooperative banks by the political leaders, it certainly worries also It worries the Devendra Fadnavis chief minister also.
Yeah.
And that's why whenever we get such type of report, we demand and we appoint independent inquiry. In this case also we are approaching Reserve Bank. Tomorrow I am meeting Reserve Bank Deputy Governor.
Yeah.
Day after tomorrow I am meeting the Governor of RBI, and I am once again I am going to insist them appoint an independent professional auditor, go for forensic audit, simultaneously take help of Mumbai Economic Offence Wing of
Yeah.
Mumbai Police, and let them both study who are connected, and whoever are involved, they must be punished.
Okay. Mr. Somaya, if I may reiterate my question, the core problem, which is beyond just PMC, is not that the RBI has not been keeping a watch on what is happening. The problem is that the RBI doesn't have full jurisdiction over cooperative banks. It's shared with the state government. And you know, that's where the problem starts. So a PMC, you know, has financial results which look pretty fine. 2% ka NPA, 100 crore rupees profit, and then few months later it's a mess because it's the state government who audits those reports, not just the RBI. You already know this, Mr. Somaya. So my question to you today has to be, why hasn't this situation been rehauled? And don't you think cutting off the cord between cooperative banks and politicians is crucial? They cannot use it as their piggy banks.
I think you are oversimplifying on the dual jurisdiction which is going on for decades. The RBI and state government cooperative department, this discussion is going on since long, but that doesn't mean it gives authenticity to any fraudulent people. The other bank, the private bank or scheduled bank or PSU bank, where RBI is a sole regulator, there also fraud is taking place. So we should not simplify it. Okay, just due to the dual responsibility or dual regulatory system, such thing is happening. Fraud is fraud. Second point, there are bad people in every way. Now you know the private bank also the fraud has been taken place. The NPA fraud in PSU bank also, they are not politicians. So whoever involved, whoever, he may be politician, he may be a professional person. Now in this bank, somebody can question, people are questioning me what the RBI auditor was doing. Because one company, one HDIL has been given more than 30-40% construction loan. More than 30-40% of advances has gone to one person. 2 years back, HDIL was declared weak. And then also in 24 months, on one side, financial agencies are filing cases against insolvency, liquidation, and simultaneously bank was giving loan to them.
I appreciate your
Third
efforts as a politician, as an MP of that area, where you know you're looking at people who are coming to you for help as a senior politician. But the issue is bigger than that, and I'm afraid we cannot separate politics from it. We cannot separate politics for it because your government has promised to end phone banking. Then why aren't you ending phone banking here? Why aren't you ending phone banking here? The fact is, cooperative banks have been plagued by this problem. And it comes from political clout. We are seeing that in the Maharashtra Cooperative Bank case where the ED has issued notices to Sharad Pawar. I'm not saying it's just the BJP. But we need to cut this cord. Is your government ready to cut the cord between political clout and them deciding who manages the bank, and then them deciding where the money goes, when everyone knows it's not going to come back? It's not the first case. PMC is not the first case. You'll admit that, Mr. Somaya.
Let me correct you, ma'am. If you want to discuss about the cooperative bank, the political connection, political involvement, you can have a discussion on that. But when you are discussing about PMC, let me go on record. Let us not mix two things. By diverting the issue to the political connectivity, we will mislead the society and investigator.
Why is that,
don't
sir?
find any political connection or corruption in PMC. Please listen me now. I don't find any political corruption or political mismanagement or involvement in PMC Bank fraud. I'm going on record.
How
So
do you know
don't
that before
simplify
the
it.
investigation?
Maharashtra State Cooperative Bank fraud, maybe politician involved. In PMC, it is purely a financial fraud.
No, so two questions. What if the directors had links to other political parties and not yours? Would you say the same thing? And how can you say that without the investigation being conducted? How can you give a clean chit before the investigation? You yourself, Mr. Somaya,
How
said that
you
let an
can-
investigation happen.
Here, because I know these people and system so long, here is only one individual builder has encashed 40% of advances. Number two, there are not much or many or heavy politician involved in the director or decision making system. But then also I am telling that the investigator go find out whoever involved, they may be punished. Your actual basic discussion about the connection of cooperative bank involvement, that's why I told in banking financial system, the fraud is a major issue where there is no involvement of politicians. There also frauds are taking place where there are involvement in cooperative bank of some politician. There also fraud is taking place. The major issue is financial mismanagement and fraud.
Okay, I would just request Mr. Somaya, while you are looking out for depositors, let's not be in a hurry to either accuse or either give a clean chit. We don't know. Let's wait and see what comes from the investigation, and let's hope for a free and fair investigation, no matter what the linkages are and whether they link to any political party or not. Thank you for speaking with us. Unfortunately, the bitter truth is that cooperative banks, especially in Maharashtra, have long been plagued by these political linkages. And that is at the very end and the very root cause of the ills that they've had. And time and again, it is the poorest depositors who get stuck on this. To speak more on this, I'm joined now by political analyst Amitabh Tiwari and top lawyer Sujoy Kantawala. Welcome to the show to both of you. Amitabh, I've just finished a conversation with former BJP MP Kirit Somaya, who's been asking for a probe in the case but insists that this fraud in PMC has nothing to do with any political patronage, though some of the directors have links with the ruling party. Now, my question to you, Amitabh, is, and nothing to do with one particular party, because we're seeing a parallel investigation into NCP chief Sharad Pawar, but why has the political linkages to cooperative banks impacted their working so badly for so many years?
See, the cooperative banks have a long history in the state of Maharashtra politics. What has happened over the years is that membership to any of the board of directors of these banks gives you a launchpad for a career in politics. So you get status, you get name and fame, and then you are recognized by one of the political parties and given a ticket. That helps the political parties also, because they then are able to use these people for funding of the elections and managing the resources of the parties. And since Congress and NCP have been ruling the state for a significantly high number of years, 15 years from 1999 to 2014, they occupied most of the positions in the banks. In the last 5 years, since now BJP has come to power, it has started putting their own people on the boards of these banks. A big reason for leaders and workers of NCP and Congress moving towards BJP and Sena is also that they will be eligible for appointment on these boards if they move to BJP and Sena. So there has been a political nexus. It is very difficult to break this nexus. The Apex Bank, the Apex Bank in 2011, RBI had to put in a set of administrators, and that was on the advice of the current chief minister. because of an internal rivalry to occupy the resources of these banks. So it's been 8 years since the Apex Cooperative Credit Bank has been under the scanner, and the latest scanner or the latest scan, which is of the PMC Bank, it is among the top 10 cooperative banks of India. So it also speaks a lot about the political interference and also about the independence of the boards of these banks.
Absolutely. So today, for example, when people compare this to frauds in other banks, and we know Punjab National Bank has also, been at the receiving end of a fraud. So many PSU banks have been at the receiving end of frauds, but here it's different. Here it's different because there seems to be a very trigger-happy kind of a situation when it comes to stopping withdrawals. So depositors suffer much, much more. So Joy, we've been speaking consistently about the situation, some relief where the withdrawal limit has increased from 1,000 to 10,000, but it's still a paltry sum. It's still a paltry sum, and with the management saying that we have enough liquidity, with this bank apparently having enough deposits, it's tough to understand why more laxity is not given to depositors. And if in case it was such a bad situation, how has the withdrawal limit increased from 1,000 to 10,000 rupees in a mere 2 or 3 days?
So what happened, Tamanna, what has happened is that now the backlash from the public has become so severe, and national channels like yours have brought it to the notice of everyone that there has been a knee-jerk reaction from the management of this bank. And therefore, they have arbitrarily, whimsically, simply increased the limit to 10,000 rupees. This shows the complete and patent non-application of mind and the attitude, the callous attitude towards the poor middle-class account holder, who unfortunately can only band together, cry on each other's shoulders, and the actual defaulters who have benefited by the funds being given to them and thereafter flying in their private jets all around, resulted in NPAs. Who are the sufferers? The account holder. Because the account holder earns money, deposits all his money in the bank, but when he has to withdraw his own money, that time he is told 1,000, suddenly it becomes 10,000. That means now where will this 10,000 extra 9,000 rupees per account, where will it come from?
No, and how has this limit suddenly increased? If there was that kind of leeway, then why not from day one? We've seen horrific scenes of senior citizens almost fainting in shock, thinking that they're not going to get their money. So, did we need to go through all of that pain? It's something is just not sitting right in the way this is all, unfolding. I've got Tarun Bhatia with me, who's literally a forensic investigator. Tarun, welcome to the show. And I just want to get your input on what we know of the PMC Bank case so far. This one is a tough one to understand because their financial results seem better. They have 137 branches. They have a better reputation than most cooperative banks, are supposed to be relatively professionally managed. And out of the blue, we have this shocker coming in with one big, sort of a company seeming on the face of it to suck out all the liquidity. Can this have happened without someone inside in the know?
Yeah, thanks, Tamanna. I think, when events happen in financial sector, they tend to spiral very fast. So, we are all trying to understand and get more insight into what has happened. And I think I was hearing to the discussion earlier also, there is, the arbitrariness with which the limit was initially set to rupees 1,000 and to 10,000. You're right. I don't think, events like this happen overnight. If I go through the interview that the, head of the bank had given after the RBI directive came in, the indication was that, RBI as a regulator was looking into the bank, and as it was completing its exercise, this decision was made. But I think it needs much more closer scrutiny on, what really happened into these accounts. Was there any specific payout which was expected, and anticipated by the bank, which didn't come? It's unlikely that the senior management of the bank was not aware, of the situation there. More information which is coming in, the depositor, including the large depositor, has RBI's cooperative society also has deposits in PMC Bank. All of this is right now, very honestly, a lot to digest. And from a forensic or an investigative aspect, I think one needs to look into, closely into the books, at least for the last 6 to 12 months, to understand, where the surprises are coming from. And also disclosures around, new loans which have been given in the recent past, especially if the bank felt that there was liquidity pressure brewing in, then why were these loans given out?
No, exactly. Now, there are so many reports coming in. Some seem that HDIL may have withdrawn money from PMC to repay other banks. As more layers unravel, the question then is that who was in the know, and can we rule out political interference? I'm going to come to you, Sujoy, with this question. And earlier on the show, when I was speaking with Kirat Sumaya, he was very offended that I was asking about political linkages, because in this case, it happens to be linkages to the BJP. In other cases, it has been other parties. So he has made a declaration that in this case, there is no political linkages. He's already sure of it. But can we rule it out looking at the history of how cooperative banks have functioned, especially in Maharashtra?
No, I think he is prejudging the issue and giving a clean sheet to his own people. I think that's a very unfortunate thing that he's trying to do. There should be an SIT over here, maybe a retired High Court judge and forensic experts, because I'm sure this can of worms is going to reveal more and more as the layers open up. It is going to reveal that there was absolute complicity at the highest level internally in the bank to oblige certain defaulters and NPS. Thereby, there has to be a FIR lodged immediately, and this is in 48 hours we are getting this information, for fraud, cheating and criminal conspiracy and criminal breach of trust. Only if heads roll and the chairman of the bank is arrested immediately, then only there will be some sort of justice or some revelations that who are the main conspirators or who are the people, the hidden hand that has inspired these events. Because I don't believe that overnight from 1,000 rupees, suddenly you make it 10,000 just because you have received this kind of backlash. You can't play with account holders' monies like this. People who are suffering on a day-to-day basis, you can't tell them that wait for your medical, let it be postponed, let your education be postponed. Festive season may come and go, we don't care for you. This attitude will not be permitted.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Tarun, I must ask you a very important question that, a lot of people have been asking me. Is there any fear of contagion now that the RBI has clamped down? And that is one of the reasons the RBI has come with this very strict sort of regulation. Fear of this spreading to other banks or financial establishments, including cooperative banks.
So I think, Tamanna, there are two aspects to the contagion. I think the more immediate aspect is that, cooperative banks have always been considered a bit more susceptible, vulnerable. There is less information, about them, but they of course have branches in tier 1 cities, tier 2 cities. I think the immediate contagion is on other cooperative banks. There could be some run by the deposit holders because they would feel it's safer to have that cash with them or withdraw it from a cooperative bank and put it in other banks. I think clearly, at least in cities or other cities where depositors have an alternate option or have a second bank account, we believe that is something which is likely to happen. Even data on PMC Bank, at least what I was reading after the limit was increased to 10,000, it suggested that almost 2/3 of the bank deposit holders can withdraw all of their money, which means there are many small deposit holders, and all of them, if they have an alternate option like an existing bank account, they will withdraw that, or there's a high likelihood that they will withdraw because the same color is applicable in the minds of the deposit holders. So I think that's one contagion. I think the second is it immediately requires without a panic for the regulator or the cooperative banks themselves to look at their asset book and ensure that they are not party to financing transactions which are supporting non-performing accounts or distress account, because clearly the liquidity on these accounts is very low. I mean, we are all right now relying on bits of information which are coming out in public domain. Important to as a forensic investigator, I would suggest authenticate that if it's true. But I think all the large and mid-sized cooperative banks need to look at their asset book, have a better understanding on the distress accounts, and maybe the regulator themselves can play a role there, which could be more proactive than waiting for another bank to have a similar situation, because that could be extremely concerning, given the nature of the industry.
This we can say that something good has come out of this. Amitabh, I'm coming to you on this point. If this is a tipping point, that after this, the whole system of cooperative banks is re-looked at. RBI has given more powers over it, more responsibility over it. And this sort of treatment that if a cooperative bank goes down, you completely shut down depositor access. But of course, you don't let that happen to other bigger banks. That changes because it's just completely unfair.
Yeah, so since RBI has cracked the whip on this bank, now it should do a forensic audit of at least the large banks to see if money of the depositors is safe in those banks. And also, I mean, the purpose of these cooperative banks is largely financial inclusion, and they have largely opened their shops in rural areas. With so many PSU banks which we have, and their penetration also fairly good nowadays, we should also possibly see or explore the option of merging of some of these cooperative banks, or taking over some of these cooperative banks by the PSU banks, and the people and the depositors also who deposit money in these cooperative banks have to be very careful, because if you have let's say SBI or any other PSU bank in your city, just for the sake of getting some extra interest, people are being lured by the officers of those banks of depositing money in these banks, and they should also be extra cautious now, because many people would not have known rupees 1 lakh is just the insurance which covers your FD. So if you have anything above 1 lakh, I mean, the banks technically are not, or even the regulator is not technically obligated to repay you.
Absolutely. The fact is that that 1 lakh cover is for all banks. Technically, no one is obligated to pay you beyond 1 lakh rupee for any bank account. I am not even sure if enough people know about this. But it's not just, it's being painted very often that these depositors are quote unquote greedy. So they run to these cooperative banks for a few extra percentage points in interest. That's not always the case. These are also more accessible. Sometimes it's closer to their home. Sometimes their community as a whole is investing and putting their money in these banks, and they kind of go along. So it's really not fair to paint them, because there's a product in the market. They are free to choose it. It's the regulator's job to make sure that they're not gypped. I want to thank all of you for joining us on this show today. We're going to continue with our continuous coverage on what is happening in this PMC story. We think it's important. But before we go, I want to leave you with the voices that matter of depositors who are hurting day in and day out. You must not forget their voices, and we must keep playing them out for you. Thank you so much for joining us.
मुझे ये समझ नहीं आती कि 4 दिन हो गए, इन्होंने एक भी डायरेक्टर को अभी तक अरेस्ट नहीं किया है, कोई पूछताछ नहीं की है। बैंक ये पुलिस वाले कोई भी FIR दर्ज कराने नहीं कर रहे हैं। इसका मतलब इनकी आप मिली भगत है। इन्होंने कुछ गफला किया, इसलिए ये नहीं हो रहा है। सब ने मिल बांट के खाया।
भूखे रह के गुजारा करेंगे हम। एक दिन में 1 लीटर दूध पिलाओ तो 50 रुपए का 1 लीटर दूध है। कम से कम दूध तो पिए कि नहीं, कि पानी पी के पेट भरेंगे।
हमारा पैसा हमें देने के लिए क्यों चक्कर खिला रहे हैं? हमारी FD जो हो गई है वो हमें पैसा दे दीजिए, बस हमारा और कुछ नहीं मांगना है। हमें अपना पैसा चाहिए।
पुलिस तो हमको ये बोल रही है, यहाँ से डाइवर्ट कर रही है कि आप ईडी को दीजिए, आप एक एप्लीकेशन आरबीआई को दीजिए, एप्लीकेशन देके करेंगे, हमारा पैसा हमको दो। एप्लीकेशन किसका भला होने वाला एप्लीकेशन करके? ये पुलिस तो डाइवर्ट कर